Well, to discuss this, we have our guest, Sergio Rubio-Henao, a political analyst at Atlas Electoral. Sir, hello and welcome back to Perspectiva. So how significant is Abelardo de la Espriela's first-round victory, and did it come as a surprise?
Hello, good afternoon. Well, I would say it was quite significant. The result was not what surveys or expectations were. He came in at 44% of the vote, nearly, and expectations had it that he would be somewhere around 25 to 35 and come in second place, not in first. So it was a surprise, and looking forward to the second round, it bodes well for his chances.
Sergio, just how much of this election is a referendum on President Gustavo Petro's administration?
I would say that it is a referendum on Gustavo Petro's administration. The country has been polarized now for more than 10 years, since 2016, when there was a peace referendum where the government made a peace deal with the FARC guerrilla groups. And since then, the country has been divided into two. And in 2022, Gustavo Petro, the country's first left president in modern times, came in, and he has really had a polarized country with a segment of the population that is very supportive of his policies, his efforts, but importantly, his symbolism as a representative of a group of Colombians that have been largely marginalized and ignored by the Colombian political establishment. And then you have another section of the country that is tremendously fearful of what Petro represents and now what his chosen successor, Ivan Cepeda, represents, pointing to the neighboring country of Venezuela, usually, as what could happen to Colombia if it continues down this left-wing progressive route.
And has Colombia's total peace strategy become a political liability for the government?
Well, what the results from Sunday show us is that most Colombians went to the polls on Sunday with security in mind. Now, Colombia is not new to insecurity. It has had decades of domestic strife, from the guerrilla groups to paramilitary groups, to insurgent groups in general that have prevented the country from establishing order. Now, in recent decades, it has gotten better, but the 2022 entry of current President Gustavo Petro, he took on a policy of total peace, as you say, which was this framework of having an open dialogue with all the insurgent groups in the country in order to find peace deals with them. And what happened was no peace agreements were found, and in fact, the sense of insecurity has risen in the country because increased their influence in some sectors of the country, in some regions of the country. And so this rise of insecurity within the population is largely the blame is largely put at the total peace or the paz total framework of the current administration, that the current candidate that is running to replace Petro, Ivan Cepeda, the leftist candidate, he was a architect of. And so it probably has damaged his credibility within a large sector of Colombians who view security as the primary issue in their voting.
Well, the two candidates do offer very different approaches to security. Can you explain how their strategies compare?
Well, I think what you can see with Abelardo de la Espriella, the candidate, the candidate that symbolizes this new right, this new Latin American right, he's taking a lot of notes from Bukele's, President Bukele of El Salvador, his policies. He's arguing for the implementation and the construction of several mega prisons within the country, that the prototype has already been created in El Salvador, a very hard-line security approach, a very hard-line approach to criminality, and this is really speaking to a lot of Colombians, as we've seen in other Latin American countries, a lot of Colombians desire for a more hardline approach to this. Now, in contrast, it's a very clear contrast with this election because Ivan Cepeda, of the current government's party, he's running to continue these dialogues. Now, he hasn't, even though it's become somewhat of a political liability to him, he has not taken a step back and distanced himself. In fact, he continues to defend his proclivity to want to engage in dialogues with these insurgent groups, despite the fact that it hasn't worked. And I think what we'll see over the next couple of weeks, because the runoff election is in 20 days, is whether both candidates try to come to the center in order to, when it comes to security, in order to gain voters who are now unsure of where they're going to go.
And Sergio, how could a De La Espriella victory reshape Colombia's relationship with the Trump administration?
Well, that's a very good question. I think what you need to know about Colombia's positioning in Latin America with regard to Washington and its relationship with the United States is that it has historically been the United States' closest ally in the region. It has come through decades of collaboration on different fronts, such as in the 1990s and the 2000s. There have been very strong collaboration with Plan Colombia, which was the United States investing hundreds of millions of dollars in bolstering Colombia's security against insurgent groups and drug trade, etc. And even more recently, in the Biden administration declared Colombia a major non-NATO ally. So you can really see the closeness between Bogota and Washington over the time. Now, over the past couple of years with both President Trump and President Petro, this relationship is frayed. And it's quite combative, especially between the two leaders. And I think if De La Espriella does end up winning at the end of June, President Trump will have a new ally in Bogota that aligns with a lot of his priorities when it comes to security, immigration, combating the drug cartels. And I think what you'll see is a much closer collaboration between the two sides. And importantly, with what happened at the beginning of this year with the policy in Venezuela as well, and having an ally in Bogota that aligns with the Venezuela question.
And Sergio, in your view, what will be the single most important issue deciding the runoff election on June 21st?
I think the question of runoff elections is which of the two candidates has less rejection from the total population. And a lot of the voters who now do not know where to go, who voted for a candidate who was eliminated in the first round, now have to choose between a far-right candidate and a far-left candidate. And the question will be, which candidate has less rejection from the broader population? So I believe you might see both candidates attempt to speak to more moderate centrist voters. They have their voters locked up. But now the question is, where will the voters of the third place candidate, the fourth place candidate, the fifth place candidate go? And so you might see a tweaking of the political discourse from either candidate.
Sergio, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Well, that's all for today's edition of Perspectiva. Our thanks go to our guests for sharing their views on the US-Iran's war and the Strait of Hormuz, and their views on the Colombian elections. Well, for more stories and updates, please follow us on social media or visit AsiaOne News TV. Yeah, thank you for watching. My name is Tom Philpott, and we will see you next time.